Get started?
Absolutely. It's going to be phenomenal.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. I am Noelle from the Sacramento District Dental Society, and we here and with the Contra Costa District Dental Society are very excited to have joining us today Gary Zelesky. Gary is one of the most passionate and requested presenters on the speaking circuit today. He's been presenting to audiences around the world for over 25 years. From tears of laughter to tears of reflection, Gary has a way of grabbing his audience that few possess. And with that, let's welcome Gary Zelesky.
Thank you for that overwhelming applause. Hey, Noelle, and again, Noelle, thank you for taking the time, Sacramento Dental Society, for doing this. But here's what I want to do for the next few minutes. I want to talk to you, talk to the person, wherever you are. Maybe you're laying on your couch, who knows with this kind of medium what you might be doing today. But I really want to talk to that person on the other side of the screen. The way I got involved in the whole dental family was really, wow, it was almost like 20 years ago. And even the story that I'm about to tell you says so much about what we're all going through right now with the pandemic and the isolation and all the social distancing, everything. So this was years ago, and my wife, Cherise, who has been for the last 25 years doing all of my bookings, okay? She's the one that makes sure that I'm on the right flight, going to the right hotel, she's that person. And so she came to me about 20 years ago, and she says, hey, there's a dental event that wants you to come and speak. I've never spoken for anything dentistry. You know, I occasionally went to the dentist like everybody else, but when it came to knowing dentistry or dentists or their teams, no clue. So I go to this booking and she says to me, yeah, there's going to be over 4,000 dentists at this event and their teams. And I went, oh my gosh, that is so cool. I get to speak to 4,000 people. I was higher than a kite. So I drive to this event. I get to the convention center, and there are cars everywhere, people wearing their tags. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. So when I walk in, a host says, can I help you? I said, yes, I'm one of the speakers. She goes, oh, well, the speaker's table is right down the hall. I went, oh, okay, a speaker's table. Wow, just for speakers. And as I walk down the hall, I go by the large, giant auditorium where the keynote speakers are going to be. And it's beautiful. The big screens are up on the stage. People are starting to find their seats. I'm going to be on that stage in just a few minutes. I can't wait to rock this group. I was so excited. So I go down to the speaker's table, and this wonderful lady says, can I help you? I said, yes, I'm one of the speakers here. And what is your name? I said, Gary Zelesky. And she starts going through her cards, you know, finding my name. She goes, oh, yes, Gary Zelesky. I have your card right here. You're going to be in room 50. And I went, I'm sorry? She goes, yes, you're going to be in room 50. It's down the hall. Keep walking, across the street. There's another building across the street, and you're going to find room 50. That's where you'll be speaking. And I'm going, oh, and how many of you know you got to keep this going, right? So I go, oh, okay, thank you. So I'm walking down the hall. I cross the street, another building, keep walking. I come to room 50. I think the reason they called it room 50 because it seated 50 people. Now, it's 30 minutes before my presentation, and I'm getting things ready, and the crowd is swelling to 5 people. So it seats 50, but there's 5 people in the room. And of course, where are they seated? Of course, in the back of the room. So here I am by myself trying to get everything ready. And on the outside, I've got the smiles and I've got the ha, right? But on the inside, I'm going, I cannot believe that I came all this way to speak to this group. But I never let it show. Well, it was starting to get time for me to speak. The crowd swelled up to, are you ready? 10 people. Beautifully seated all over the room. And you would think they was trying to practice social distancing, because that's exactly what they were. Nobody was there to introduce me. It was just me. And so about 5 minutes before I was to speak, I called my wife on my cell phone. And this was the conversation. Hey, hon, it's Gare. I go, she goes, yeah, what's going on, sweetie? Are you at the event? I go, yes, I am. And I don't know what you were thinking because I drove all the way here. I'm not speaking to 4,000 people. I'm in this room way in the back, and there's 10 people here. I can't believe I drove all of this way, spending all of this time to speak to 10 people. It's ridiculous. I'm almost thinking about just coming home. And this was what my wife said back to me. Yes, I think it'd probably be a good idea. You need to come home. Just come home. Now, how many of you know sometimes that people say something to you that you're not expecting? And I didn't know how to respond because my wife would not want me to come home. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? And I said, really? You think I should come home? She goes, oh, yeah, you definitely need to come home. And I said, why? Why do you feel that way? And then she said this, Gary, if you can't give 100% of who you are to those 10 people, they deserve somebody a heck of a lot better than you. I'll never forget that. She said, if you can't give 100% of who you are to those 10 people, then they deserve somebody better than you. You know what I did? I stood in the back and I regrouped. I retooled. How many of you know we've got to do that, especially right now? We've got to retool what's going on in here. And in the back, I'm going, okay, these 10 people, they're worth it. There's 1,000 people. This rock, come on, Gary, you can rock. And I was almost like Rocky, you know, in the movie. So when I got up in front of that group, for the next 45 minutes, I gave the best I could. You would think there were 1,000 people in that room. Well, here's what happened at the end. When I finished, people came up to me, thank you for the energy. You're amazing. It was great. Your energy, even though there was nobody here, you were like speaking to a big group. And I knew that in my mind, it was all because of Charisse. And then as everybody left, there was one person in the back of the room. And he walked up to me and he said, hi, my name is so-and-so. And I go, nice to meet you. And he said, yeah. He goes, I hope you didn't mind, but I recorded your session today. And I went, wow. Now, this was in the days of cassettes. Do you remember the cassettes? So he had a tape recorder. He goes, I have a friend that I would like to share your message with, if that's all right. And I said, yeah. I said, he goes, his name is Dr. Richard Maddow. And I go, oh, I didn't know anybody. Dr. Richard, now who's that, right? He goes, yeah, do you mind if I share what your message with him? I go, no, not a problem. So he left. I kind of forgot about it, regrouped. About 3 weeks later, I get a call from Richard Maddow, Dr. Richard Maddow, who I didn't know at the time was holding the largest private dental meeting in the country in Las Vegas. And he said, I heard your message. He goes, Gary, what really hit me is that there was only 10 people in that room, but your energy and enthusiasm and your transparency and your everything was right there. You would think you're speaking to 1,000 people. He goes, would you come next November and speak at our conference? I said, I would love to. That next November, I was sharing the stage with Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, some of the best speakers in the country. That launched me into the entire dental profession to speak, which taken me all over the world for the last 20 years. But where did it start? It started with my wife readjusting my brain a little bit and saying, even though there's only 10 people in the room, if you can't give 100% to those 10, then they deserve somebody better. When this whole thing came down, as a speaker, I got my energy from the crowd. I got my enthusiasm from the crowd. And then I became this online guy. Why? Because I needed to. I had to. I didn't want to. And what became the most difficult challenge I've ever faced was to speak into a camera, to speak at a computer, and try to create that same amount of energy until this hit me. I'm not speaking to a computer. I'm speaking to you. It's about you. You're the crowd of one. And that adjustment that went on in my life 20 years ago is the same thing that's making the adjustment serve me today. I'm going through it too. I don't live on the affirmation planet. I don't come home and walk through the door after I leave our little place in the backyard here. I'm in this little converted studio. I don't go in the house and my wife looking at me says, "Oh, the speaker man is here. Oh, please, Gary, speak to me." No, that's not what happens. What's happening in my life probably is somewhat the same thing that's happening in your life. What am I going to do now? How do I retool my life? How do I figure things out? How do I plan for a future that has so much uncertainty? That's where I'm at, and I'm probably where you're at. Some of you have children that suddenly they're not at school anymore. They're with you in your space. How do you translate that? How do you navigate? People are trying to figure out all kinds of things. You're a doctor who just laid off your entire staff. Some have worked for you for years. How do you process the fact that you're going to try to rehire some of them? Or maybe you're trying to figure out, how am I going to work out the finances? What am I going to do when this pandemic begins to slow down and I've got to try to figure out how to reopen not just my office, but how do I reopen my life? And so the next few minutes I have, I'm just going to give you a few ideas, and that might help trigger something in your thinking. I tell people all the time that doctors and I have something in common. What dentists do is they change people's lives from the outside in. You change the smile. You take away the pain. You are an artist. You are amazing what you do for people's lives. Some of you even, maybe your offices are open for those emergency situations. You're changing people's lives from the outside in. And what I try to do is change people's lives from the inside out. So I think we're the perfect team. And by the way, I want to do a quick little save the date. All right, save the date. Here it comes. I'm going to look a little over so I get my information. You got to save the date for Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. Yeah, we're projecting. We're going to get together. We're projecting it. Ready? It's going to be the Sacramento District Dental Society General Membership Meeting. Yours truly, I'm going to be speaking on the subject of how to overcome what overwhelms us, mental health, okay? And it's going to be at the Hilton, right, Sacramento, Arden Way at the Hilton. Doors are going to open at 5:45 p.m. Now, do you need some more information? I've got a phone number, right? Here it is. It's 916-446-1227. I'm going to repeat that again. Ready? 916-446-1227. I'm going to be speaking. I can't wait. Please plan on being there. It's going to be amazing. All right, here we go. Ready? A friend of mine, well, he's not my friend, but he wants to be. His name is Chuck Swindoll. Chuck Swindoll says this when it comes to opposition, when it comes to our lives, and we're facing things that are overwhelming, all right? He says this: 10% of our life is what happens to us every single day. It's the surprise that we never asked for. It's the reality that we never invited in, right? He said 10% of life is what happens to you. But ready? 90% of life is how you choose to respond to that 10%. How many of you know I'm not always good at responding to the 10% of that pressure? But he goes, 90% of life is in the response. So here's what I'd like to do as I move forward. I want to give you 6, what I call them mental attitudes, 6 attitudes that you might want to think about as you go through your day. And for me, what I'm going to be talking about is what happens from the what? From the inside out. The fear, the anxiety, whatever news report you watch, that becomes almost the attitude that we embrace. I meet people all the time that when it comes to the social distancing, they take it to a level that I've never seen before. Then there's others that don't even acknowledge it. So it's really about our attitude. It's about what's going on inside of us, right? So let me give you a couple of ideas. Here's the first of my 6 ideas when it comes to this whole mental adjustment. Number 1, focus. Think of the word focus. And this is a big one. Focus is about making sure that you are in the moment. Focus is making sure that you see, that you spend time looking. It's about recognition. Do you know that the number one reason that people leave their jobs is not money? It's not benefits. You know, the number one reason that people leave their jobs, lack of personal recognition. They're not being recognized for what they do or who they are. And sometimes we miss that personal recognition, acknowledging people. And I'm telling you, the ones that we really need to acknowledge many times are the ones that are what? They're closest to us. I know for me, I find myself sometimes giving my best to people that don't even care, and then serving my emotional leftovers to my family at the end of the day. You know, we have so many distractions, especially nowadays with the phone, all the screens that's going on, that sometimes even when people that are close to us are talking to us, we're not giving them one thing they need, and that's the personal eye contact. So the first thing that I want you to think about is your focus. Are you in the moment? Are you giving people your undivided attention? Or is it a constant look away, constant distraction? You've got so many other things going on that you haven't got time for the people that need you the most. So the first one, focus. You got to be a person of incredible focus, acknowledgement. Here's the second one. I want you to think about this. It's called affirmation. Now, affirmation is really affirming people. It's giving them a sense of verbal discernment, right? We do have social distancing, but this verbal affirmation is so important. How many of you have ever said something, and as the words are coming out of your mouth, you're going, no, come back now, come back. You have that, you say something and you're going, oh, my daughter, when she was younger, she would say, Daddy, words are like toothpaste. And I'm going, please tell me there's more to your statement. I go, what do you mean? She goes, well, once those words come out, they can't go back in. So the words that we say, that the words that we speak, they really have power, because people do not remember what you say to them. But listen to me, people will always remember how your words made them feel. So we've got to filter. We got to filter in this brain that tells us, don't say that. How many of you know what I mean? That little voice, don't say that. And some of us, I had one person come up to me and say, well, I don't use the filter. And I go, well, what's it like not having any friends? I mean, that's the alternative. So the second one is verbal affirmation. Try to find words that are affirmation. If you're not a morning person, when you wake up in the morning, try to be grateful. Try to find things that's going to put you in maybe a word of affirmation mood, okay? Be careful of the words that you speak. There's so much power in those words, all right? That's affirmation. So I talked about focus. I talked about affirmation. By the way, I'm going to make these notes available to you if you'd like to get them after I'm done. Here's another one. It's modeling. It's modeling. It's what does our life say? I was talking to my grandson a couple of days ago, and my grandson, he's amazing, 14 years old, and he lives in Chicago, and we're talking, and I love talking because he's not this punk kid. He's really, I know he's my grandson, I'm bragging a little bit, but he's really into basketball, and we're talking. And he was talking about the relationship that he had with Kobe Bryant, and he still does. Not that he knew Kobe, but Kobe would share seminars and he would share ideas. And Jaden actually, most of his practice and his regimen, everything he does is because of what Kobe had shared with him. But one of the things he said that Kobe Bryant learned his expertise, much of it, from Michael Jordan. I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, Michael Jordan didn't really sit down and teach like Kobe does. But what happened was that Michael Jordan modeled for Kobe the outcome of what Kobe wanted in his life. He modeled the outcome of what Kobe wanted in his life, simply saying this: when somebody looks at you, when the family member watches your life, watches what you're modeling, watches your moods, is what the outcome as a result of the way you're modeling Is it going to be worth for them going, yeah, that's what I've been looking for? I'm not saying we have to be perfect. My gosh, when you're living in close quarters, it's like space invaders, right? But I am saying this, that our life, the way we live our life in front of people, especially the people that are close to us, what is your life message? It's got to matter, because what your life message is the outcome. It's not just how you're acting right now, it's the outcome of that. So modeling becomes this incredible thing. Your mood. I've been in some practices, and the staff, this is my staff. I don't really like the word staff. This is my staff. We all wear the same color pajamas. I don't know. But I do, listen to me, I do like the word team. Why? Because staff, the definition, isn't it like staff is something you spray to get rid of, staff. But a team is a group that actually watches each other's back. And so the mood, and I was in this one practice, and this one woman, I'm telling you, I didn't know her mood changed from like the weather in Denver. You never knew where she was from one minute to the next. And people were like dancing on eggshells around this woman. Listen, we've got to make sure that our life, especially right now, what is our life's message when people watch us? Not just our words, but our life, okay? So modeling, it's a big, big thing. Here's another one, and I call this investment. And investment simply is this: value of the other person. People need to somehow feel valued. Doing little things for the people that are closest to you. One of the things that I've been doing, and again, trust me, I do more things bad than I do good, all right? If you want to know how many times I failed, just ask my wife. But good luck with that, because guess what? She's not here right now for a reason, okay? But there are. I mean, I'm giving you my best right now. I've failed more than anybody you can imagine. However, there are times in my life when it's got to be about investment. And that's like what I'm doing right now. This is not comfy time for me. This is not easy. But I tell you this, in my being able to pour out a few minutes and maybe give you some hope, give you some energy, give you some enthusiasm, maybe, just maybe, it might cause a change in you. Who knows? I don't know. But I know this, I don't just do this for you. I do this right now. I do it for me. Why? Because it helps my mental health. It gives me the right kind of framework. Why? Because I'm giving out to somebody else. I'm what? I'm investing. There's no better time than right now to make the calls that you've never made, to write the texts that you've never written, maybe to write a handwritten note that you've never written before. There's all kinds of things, because you have the time, that you can be doing for other people to invest in their lives. If you don't do it, then life shrinks. Why? Because you make it all about you. If you want to drive yourself crazy right now, just keep asking yourself why. Why? Why me? Why now? Why at this moment? Why? Why? Or blame somebody. Try that. See how that works for you. You see, this is not the time to ask why. This is the time to ask what. What do I need to do? What can I do today differently? What can I begin to do to help my own mental health so I'm not in this spiraling down? I need to begin to do something positive for somebody else, because when I'm doing something positive for somebody else, I'm doing that for me. Investment is vitally, vitally, vitally important. Okay, you ready? We're almost done. Here we go. Here's the next one. And this is big. Laughter. Laughter. Why laughter, Gary? I'm going to tell you something. I've been married 30 years. Let me try that again. I've been married for 30 years. I think in those 30 years, I've probably given my wife more reasons to leave me than to stay with me. Even like last December, I had a knee replacement surgery done. Most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life. 3 months out in recovery after that first surgery, the surgery failed. I had to have the knee replacement surgery done all over again. How many of you know that are listening, and you who are watching me right now probably realize I wasn't the perfect patient. But my wife, she loved on me, she cared about me, but the one thing that got us through was our sense of what? Our sense of humor. If you haven't learned to develop a sense of humor in these times of incredible crisis and uncertainty, you're driving the people around you nuts. Gary, how can you possibly have a sense of humor when these things are just not funny? Let me share this with you. You don't have a sense of humor when you're too close to the situation. When you're so close to the situation that what has your attention has you, you will not find any humor. And if you don't have a sense of humor, you hold the people around you captive in your negativity. You see, what we have to do sometimes is get far enough away from the situation that we find ourselves in so that we can see the what? The bigger picture. And when you see the bigger picture, suddenly you begin to see the things that have a little bit of laughter. My wife and I actually wrote a book called Big Laughs, Bigger Lessons. And it's the 14 most humiliating things that ever happened to us in our lives. That's right, humiliating. They weren't funny at the time, but when you got away from them, we found humor. So laughter is something that we all need. And I close with this. The last one, I called it yield. In California, we have these yield signs. Many people have never seen them. Why? Because they're on the entrance of a freeway. And many times, some of the worst accidents happen right at the yield sign. You know why? Here's what it means. Yield means to observe what's around you and let others what? Let others go first. That becomes a big problem nowadays. Everybody wants to what? Be first. It's all about me. I've got to make it. What happens if I'm not first? Can I tell you something? The greatest thing that we can be doing for each other is serving each other. Again, let me talk about my son, or not my son, my grandson, Jaden. He plays a lot of basketball, and he told me this, Kobe taught him this, that there's this thing in basketball, and I'm not what you call sportsy, that's called rush. It's the rush. And it's when you're playing basketball and you're on the court and every team member around you is making the baskets. Everybody's making their shots. They're making the baskets, but you're not. And so you're starting to feel like everybody else is doing better than you are. And so when you get the ball, a rush is simply this. You're feeling like I've got to make the basket because I've got to make sure I'm as important as the team members around me. And so what you do in the rush is you make a shot that you seldom really hit. It's called the rush. And I think for some of us in this time of craziness, some of us are feeling the rush. We're feeling like, man, everybody's doing better, especially go to Facebook. Facebook. Go to there, and everybody's doing better than me. Can I tell you something? They're not. There's one thing we all have in common, and that's pain. We're all facing our basketball game a little bit differently. It's not a rush. Don't be afraid that everybody's doing better than you and that you've got to make that shot. Can I tell you something? Here's sometimes when you feel like you got to make the shot, you got to give the ball to somebody else. Yield simply means this. Observe what's around you and let others go first. Now, if you've got some Q&A for me, hold that right now because I want to tell you one last thing. I just gave you an acronym. It's focus, affection, right? Or affirmation, modeling, investment, laughter, and yield. It's actually an acronym, spells family. If you'd like to get my notes, if you'd like to make contact, if you'd like to have some positive feedback for me, here's what I'm going to do. This is my email address. Yes, I read really fancy, okay? Gary@GaryZelesky.com. All you got to do is email me. By the way, I do answer my own emails, all right? So you'll know it because there'll be a lot of misspells. But anyway, it's been a pleasure to be with you. Noelle, thank you so much for having me here. Don't forget, remember, we got an event coming up. It's November the 10th. It's going to be on a Tuesday night at the Hilton. Please come. We want to be there. And here's the bottom line. You are the new normal. Thank you, Noelle, for having me today. I sure appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary. We at SDDS and the Contra Costa Dental Society really appreciate you taking the time to give us all such an uplifting talk today. We need it. And as Gary said, you can see him at our November 10th general meeting. Bring your staff and we will see you there. Thanks again, Gary. And everyone, please stay safe and healthy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.